take a deep breath in. And let it go. Deep breath, breathe in. Let it go. One more collective breath, breathe in. And let go. So thanks for joining me in that collective breath. It's good to be back here. It's been, golly, a number of weeks since I've stood before you, so I'm home. And the last month I've been on quite an adventure. I started off the month at Sufi camp in Aptos with a number of us who were here. If you were here at that, yeah, we had fun. Dancing and chanting in circles for days on end and just bringing in that, that expanded sense of the Spirit within us. From there, I went to the SOAR conference at Asilomar, which is the Centers for Spiritual Living National Summer Conference/Retreat, where I was the keynote speaker on Friday. And, it was really remarkable. One of the things I love about being part of the Centers for Spiritual Living community is that we are a national and global community. And there are these opportunities throughout the year to get together with the national community. And one of the things that I found most compelling this last 2 weeks ago when I was down in Asilomar was all of the conversations that were coming from the stage, from the speakers, from the spiritual leaders of the organization. All of the conversations that we had at that retreat for a week were, what do we need to do to make sure that this teaching, New Thought, Science of Mind, this idea that tells us that thought creates reality, what do we need to do to make sure that this philosophy stays relevant in our current world? And I find it funny and fascinating that a philosophy that calls itself New Thought has to figure out how to stay relevant. It's because the new thoughts that we are sharing really came to us about 100 years ago with the founders of this movement, Ernest Holmes and others, who brought us this idea that all the traditions of the world, all the spiritual teachings are pointing us to something greater, that there's something more at work in our lives, and that that thing is consciousness, that consciousness is creator, that consciousness is the creative force that's making everything happen in the world. And so it was really exciting to be this week listening to the organization, the global organization, say, we see that we're in this shifting, changing time. And the language in which we speak, the things that we talk about, what we talk about as being important, needs to shift and change. Yes, yes. And it was so exciting to me to be listening to the leaders of this organization, who, by the way, we have a new spiritual leader for the whole global organization, Reverend Sonny Cantrell. We have a new executive director, Reverend Michelle Ariano, and we have a new Ministers' Council leader, who some of you may know, Reverend Alice Reed. And so I want to tell you one thing that was just also very exciting to me is suddenly the top 3 positions in our global organization are held by women. And I got to say, as an organization, Centers for Spiritual Living, for the last 100 years, we have predominantly licensed women and queer people as ministers. The straight white man has actually been the minority in our clergy, if you will. And yet, they've been holding those top positions for the last number of years. And suddenly, the old boys club has moved out, and the ladies have stepped onto the stage. So in that, there was this powerful recognition that the conversation is changing, that something is shifting. And almost everyone who spoke from that stage this week was one of the younger ministers who are under 40, or ministers who are people of color, or ministers who are women. There was a big shift in the voice of who's speaking for this organization. And in that, there was this conversation that was happening from the stage and also, on the little sidebars, of the big shift that we have to make is to continuously evolve. And Science of Mind, New Thought, the philosophy that we teach here, came to the world as a very mental philosophy. This was all about the power of our thinking. It was all about the power of you can create what you want, and we kind of have this image that we live in a vacuum and we can just rub the genie bottle of the universe and ask it for whatever we want as long as we think positively. And that was a powerful philosophy, and it really helped us liberate our minds to this place of seeing that we are creators. But then over 50 years or so, the churches of religious science evolved into centers for spiritual living. And we became more about community. We became more about inclusion. We became more about bringing in people of all different walks of life and different faiths and celebrating the beauty and magic and diversity of being in community with each other. And in a sense, the philosophy dropped from its head to its heart. And the conversation we had at this retreat, and that I got to sit with some of our leadership, is the next phase of our evolution is for this idea that has dropped to our heart to move into our hands and our feet and become the activity of our lives in the world. And so I want to tell you here at Center for Spiritual Living Santa Cruz that you are part of something so much greater than just this little community that we are incubating here in this place. I got to sit with the leaders of the organization, and Reverend Sunny, who's the spiritual leader of the whole organization, said to me, "Elisha, we're watching you." And she said, because what you all are doing at CSL Santa Cruz is a model that we want to figure out how to replicate and show to the other centers and ministers in this organization. Because what we've become here is a community of overlapping communities. We've become a community of spiritual exploration. Yes, we teach the science of mind, but you can come here and explore all the different ways to activate and connect with the sense of spirit and the sacred in your life. Right? And so we have Marcia, who leads Bodywise. We have Adora, who leads Dances of Universal Peace. We have ecstatic singing with Michael, and song circles with Heather, and discussion groups with Sky. And you can participate in the garden, and you can come to open mic with Molly. And you can do all of the different things that we do here. And so much of what we offer is about embodiment. It's about getting into the physical experience of spirit, not just the thoughts of it. Right? And then we've begun to march in pride. We have our flea market. We're starting to do community service events. We've hosted the rotating shelter here. There's a number of things we've started to do to say, let's take our philosophy out of our minds and start to practice it in the world. And that, my friends, is the direction that all of Centers for Spiritual Living is moving right now. I've been to dozens of these conferences over the years. Never once have I heard a land acknowledgement at one of these events, and for the first time ever, the week's retreat opened with an acknowledgement of the land and the people who came before us. Things are shifting. And I want you to know that we here are creating a model that is being noticed by the organization of what it looks like to take a stand, to be vocal, to be active, to be inclusive and embracing. We're still working on it, we're still growing, we're still learning, but somehow we are on the leading edge of what's happening in this organization. And I just want you to know that you're part of it, and you're part of a community that's setting an example for the rest of the centers of what it could look like to live this philosophy out loud, which is our theme this year, living out loud. So that's for you. After that, I spoke at Asilomar on Friday at the SOAR conference. On Saturday, I was on an airplane going to Chicago to go to the Parliament of the World's Religions, which, if you've never heard of it, is the largest interfaith gathering on the planet. It happens every few years and moves around the planet, kind of like the Olympics. And we had 6,000 people from all over the globe representing dozens of different religious traditions and philosophies, all coming together, talking about sustainability, social justice, action, peace, and how we can do all this together as communities of faith. What a week, first off, let me just tell you. And one of the highlights of my week, actually, was there was an event happening on the back patio of the conference center where there was a group who was taking guns, weapons, that had been turned into this organization. They were melting them down in a kiln, and people had the opportunity to hammer these weapons of destruction into garden tools. That's the kind of transformation that I'm talking about, right? And there was a really impactful moment that I got to witness where a woman was actually pounding out the gun that took the life of her son and transforming that object into an object of growth, of peace, and resiliency. That's what we were doing in Chicago this week. And that was just one of many events that took place over the course of the week. One of my favorites is that every time the Parliament gathers, the Sikhs from around the world come together to feed everyone. And it's called Langar, and there's a free lunch that's provided every single day, and every single person sits on the floor. There's no hierarchy of who's above or better or worse or whatever, and you have a priest to your left and a monk to your right and this person and that person, and it's like getting to sit together and have lunch with the whole world every day over the course of the week. And a friend of mine who'd never been to the parliament, I brought her to that lunch the first day, and she sat down and just started crying. You know, because I think part of the beauty of getting to attend some of the events that I've been at in the last couple weeks is to get a taste of what it actually looks and feels like when we're in a space that is truly honoring of all paths and celebrating of diversity and unity at the same time. It's a potent, powerful experience. And it was such an honor for me to get to be in this space and share it with folks like Marianne Williamson and Jane Goodall and Matthew Fox and all of these other folks who are doing great work in the world, who are all there saying, people of faith, whatever you believe, we all have one common goal. We want to live in a world that works. We want to live in societies that work. We want to build communities that work, that support life, that support each other, that supports the emergence of the world that we want to see. And so I just want to give you this little report of where I've been for the last couple weeks, because you haven't seen me, but I've been involved in some really beautiful and inspiring things, and it's going to take me the next 6 months to tell you all about it. So luckily I have a platform to do so. And then I got home, and it turned out I had a little touch of COVID, and got to sleep for a week. So I'm back to you after a very refreshing nap. Still a little tired. So bear with me if I'm a little foggy today. I'm still on the mend. You know, this month, our theme is my passion, my purpose. And this is the conversation that I've been engaged in for the last 2 weeks at all of these different conferences I've been at. It's really been getting to see what it looks like when people are activated by that which calls them and take it on into a community, national, or global stage and say, look, y'all, we've got some stuff we need to do, and we need to do it together. And in my talk at Asilomar, I said something to the effect of, and Reverend Deborah Johnson said something similar to this to you all a number of weeks ago, but the thing that I want to say today about passion and about purpose is, you know, Joseph Campbell, the great mythologizer, has told us all the quote we've all heard all along, follow your bliss, right? Yes, you've heard this before? And I think that is useful, and that's been a powerful story to get us to follow that which inspires us and that which lifts us up and that which excites us. But I'm going to say that in the current time we live in, there's a new way to find your passion. And I say follow your disturbance. Follow the thing that disturbs you, that's up in your face that you can't not look at, because guess what? That's the thing in your life that's trying to get your attention. And the thing that's trying to get your attention is the universe poking you, saying, hey, there's something we need you to do. Could you do it, please? Right? And so, you know, I love this idea of follow your disturbance. Follow the thing that's up that you can't not look at, because that's what's yours to do. And, you know, I found myself at the Asilomar SOAR conference for CSL having conversations with a number of people who were finding things wrong with the organization, finding things that they feel like weren't working, seeing things that they feel like need to shift or change. And with every single one of them, I said, I think that's your passion. I think that's your purpose. If you see something wrong or broken that needs to be fixed, guess what? You're probably the person who's being called to do it, right? And there's a beautiful quote from Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook where he says something to the effect of, looking at things as if they are separate is like looking through dark glasses. But looking at things as if they are acts and manifestations of the divine is to look at them as if God himself has handed them directly to us. Can you hear that? So this pairs with my little idea about follow your disturbance, right? Because if we believe that God is all there is, that spirit is consciousness, that life and the universe are creating through each one of us all the time, by the way, that's what we believe here, so if that's what we believe, then everything that comes our direction is being handed to us by that one mind, by that one power, by that one presence. And the funny thing about being human is that oftentimes when we're comfortable, we don't pay all that much attention. It's when we're a little perturbed, when we're a little disturbed, when we're a little upset, when we're in a little bit of pain, that we think we need to move something, right? So this idea of follow your disturbance for me is about saying if the universe, if God is all that there is, and it's acting through each one of us, and each one of us is here on purpose, for a purpose, with a purpose, then what is yours to do? What is yours to take on? And it's not just the thing that makes you feel great. It's the thing that you can't ignore any longer. And I think we live in a world that's giving us this beautiful reflection that's saying, okay, if you're not going to look at it, I'm just going to keep making it bigger. If you're not willing to see it, we're going to make this problem even larger. If you're not willing to take it on, we're just going to let this thing continue to expand until it grabs our attention. And then we become so impassioned by what it is that we are seeing in the world that we can't not take it on in a new way. And then we bring our new thoughts, our new way of thinking to that thing. And we start to enact a new way of being. So one of the leaders of the organization this week, a couple weeks ago at the conference asked me, she said, Elisha, if there was one great thing that Centers for Spiritual Living as a global movement could do to take us, to leap us into the future in a new way, what would it be? And I said, let's become a people of action.
Yes.
Let's invite every member of our communities and every one of our communities to claim your passion, to claim your purpose. In synthesis classes, I call it your project. But my vision is, what if we were communities where I could walk up to every single one of you and say, what is the thing that you're working on? What is the part of the world that you want to bring forth that's yours to do? What's your puzzle piece? And then we could all start to notice who and what is doing all of these different things. And then we could then what if we as a community said, what's the big important thing for us to work on right here? And we rallied around something in the next year or so. So I'm planting this seed in our mind because what I see is that we're a community who's leading the wave of this idea in our organization, and I want to ask us, what is our passion, individually and collectively? What are the things that are happening in our world that we can't not look at any longer, that we're willing to stand up for, march for, walk for, grow for, live for in a new way? And I believe that it's here. It's here in each one of us. Right? And so we have this place where we get to come together and be in exploration. We get to be in the dialogue, in the conversation, in the expression, in the creativity, in this churning place where we get to be inspired and filled with new ideas. But let that not just land in our heads. Let it move through us in a new way so that we become a people of action. And that which we pray for, that which we long for, that which we dream about, becomes the path that we walk. Can you hear that? So I don't know where this is going to lead us, but that's the exciting part. Is we have to be open to what is calling us. We have to be open to a greater vision. We have to be open to the more, which also means we kind of have to fall in love with stepping into the mystery and be willing to be led by something greater and go somewhere we may not know where we're going. So that's what we have for today, is just to open up this conversation for ourselves. And we're going to take this deeper in the next number of months and as we unfold together. But I want to remind us that Ernest Holmes, in the Science of Mind textbook, which is what this philosophy is based on, says that we are to be a people who are for something and against nothing. What he means by that is that we use our energy to stand up for that which is important to us. We give ourselves wholly and completely to that which we want to stand for, and we be loud about it. We be big about it. We make a splash in the world for the things that are important, and we do not use our creative energy in ways that it gets drained from us because we get lost in the fear and the confusion and the doubt. So often people hear that quote and think that we're just not supposed to be against anything and keep our minds positive. I think that that quote from Ernest Holmes is a call to action. It's a call to stand up and to be for something. But we each have to ask within ourselves, what is that thing that's in front of us that we can't not look at anymore, that we're unwilling to stop looking at, and that we will take a stand for? So let's be a people of action. Let's pay attention to that which is rising up in the world around us, recognizing that everything we see is hand-delivered to us by Spirit, and written on every single thing that comes our way is an invitation of a new way to be in a new world that is calling us. So let's step into it, let's build it, let's become it. Take a deep breath. And as we breathe together, I just invite us into a moment of contemplation, perhaps closing our eyes, where I once again remind myself and each one of us that we are being breathed by something greater than we are. Because what I know is that there is one seamless presence that is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe, and it is unfolding in, through, and as everyone, everything, everywhen, everywhere, all the time. There is one creative intelligence that is pouring itself into existence, and it is doing so through each one of us. Each one of us have the capacity to be a unique way that Spirit reveals something new into the world, where a new thought, a new idea, a new solution, a new possibility comes into the world because we were willing to look at that which is in front of us and look at it through the mind of the divine, through a mind that is connected to the source of all creative intelligence, and allow ourselves to be the place where the answer, the solution, and the possibility comes into existence. Let us awaken to our passion, to that which is calling us. Let us become on purpose. Let each one of us claim our project. Let each one of us recognize that we are each holding a piece of a great puzzle. And when each one of us claims our piece, we can start to put that bigger picture together, and the world that is calling to us will come into vision. I'm grateful to be part of this evolutionary community called Center for Spiritual Living Santa Cruz, and to be part of this greater movement of Centers for Spiritual Living, of New Thought, and the global interfaith movement. Each one of us may feel in any moment that we are insignificant, and yet our lives can make a ripple that reaches around the globe and shifts the trajectory of time and brings us to a future that we are dreaming of. And so I'm grateful for this day, for this time, for these people. And I just remind myself and each one of us that there is a power for good in this universe so much greater than we are. Let us open ourselves and empty ourselves to allow that thing to come through us wholly and completely, so that we can be the agents of change that we are looking for and that the world is calling for. And so in this moment, I just bless it all. I let it be. And so it is. Thank you, my friends.